We have companies like Amazon, Alibaba, Unilever, Apple, and so on. These are companies that do business all over the globe. Such companies have their global logistics strategy figured out, which is something that you need to know if you intend to do business all over the world. The logistic challenges that globalization presents is something we intend to cover here, and this will be divided into three parts. There is consequences of inventory handling and transport, global consolidation, and location analysis. But let's first of all start with Walmart. Okay, so you have a company like Walmart, right? This is a company that has thousands of stores in the US and has expanded internationally. Walmart operates approximately 10,500 stores and clubs under 46 banners in 24 countries and e-commerce websites. The company employs 2.3 million associates around the world, with nearly 1.6 million in the US alone. What do you think Walmart's transportation system looks like? Walmart's transportation has a fleet of about 9,000 tractors, 80,000 trailers, and more than 11,000 drivers. And that makes sense considering the size and complexity of such an organization, as well as thousands of products sold through its stores, many of which are perishable. Walmart requires high efficient inventory management, including innovative product development and just-in-time methods, to measure and monitor activities to minimize storage and related costs. And this is not just a problem that is limited to Walmart or businesses of that size. It is a common problem that all businesses that hold inventory have to deal with. For most organizations, inventory handling and transportation means the management and control of raw or packing materials, work in progress, unfinished products, and sometimes returns. What do you mean by inventory handling and transport? Inventory handling in this case means the management and control of raw materials, components, finished goods, and other stock items. While transport refers to the movement of goods from one facility to another within the organization's supply chain using a system of multimodal transport system. There is always a need, okay? There is always a need to manage inventory to ensure that there is not a lot of it and there is no less of it. I mean, think of it this way. You have inventory, which could be raw material or whatever. You spend cash to buy these, right? Now, they're just lying there in excess. And yet the cash that you've just spent in buying those things could have been used to do something else, except now it's tied up in the inventory. Poor inventory management can also lead to perishable items being wasted, fashionable items becoming dead stock by going out of style, or stock being spoiled as a result of damage. The management of transportation is often focused on cost reduction and creating opportunities for improving use because it is necessary but non-value adding activity to an operation system. So since you're in procurement, okay, your duty at this stage will be to identify where an inventory is in the supply chain and so that you can manage it. The procurement and supply function have a legal accountability for measuring the inventory value and its cost of acquisition, including any transport costs. Understanding logistics is very important since this is one of the ways you gain competitive advantage in a global marketplace. With global logistics, okay, the business has to balance between the price and availability of products and service mix of the organization with the distribution channel. The organization can choose to hold its inventory at a centralized or a regionalized level. Okay, is the difference between those two? Centralized inventory holding means that inventory is held in a hub with inventory shipped to customers in a wide area, while regionalized inventory holding means that the inventory is held in multiple locations with inventory warehoused in a regional distribution centers to service local markets more conveniently. Now the choice here, the choice whether to, have a centralized or regionalized inventory sort of management setup will be determined by the following key performance objectives. Number one, quality, that is managing quality of inventory to maintain products at their manufactured specification and accuracy of information relating to inventory holding. Number two, speed, that is the time it takes for inventory holdings to be accessed to ensure delivery to desired customer timelines or responsiveness. Number 3, dependability, which has to do with reliability of inventory holding. Number 4, flexibility, which is the ability to change the way in which the inventory is held, if need be. And finally, cost. In this case, it's all about efficiency, which is measured as a cost per item of holding inventory. Now remember, the global market is competitive, and customers care for, speed, quality, and cost, which means the logistic networks need to be responsive to the priorities of the customers and deliver the right level of dependability at the right speed and quality at the right cost. Warehousing is a crucial part of the global logistic. It is an important role in the various stages of the supply chain, from the sourcing of raw materials to the production and distribution of goods. The design of the warehouse influences the organization's storage and handling practices and facilities, labor and equipment the organization needs to deliver the required services levels and cost efficiency. And of course, the storage and handling, will depend on exactly where in the supply chain the inventory is being used. Is it raw material, work in progress, finished goods, or returns? The organization must also consider specific international factors such as geographical location, product type, size, function, ownership, nature of equipment used. A typical storage and handling will include, the following. Goods received. This means physically unloading and recording inventory from the incoming transportation, checking against purchase orders. So the process may also include, unpacking, repacking, and quality control. Reserve storage, in this case, moving the inventory received to identifiable location or replenishing picking locations. Order picking, that is managing the order cycle from receipt of order, retrieving the correct quantity of inventory to match the order line, and ensuring it is ready for dispatch in a timely manner. Added value services, in certain industries, order picking may be assembled in dispatch containers or roll cage requested by companies. These may be shrink wrapped, placed upon a pallet ready for transport. Specific labeling and additional promotion items may be added at this point. That is all part of, the add valuing services that can actually take place. And then there is also dispatch, which involves moving the prepared inventory to the loading bay to be dispatched to the next step in the supply chain. Now, when you're talking about international logistics, then there is a lot of pallets involved, which can be used to move the goods or inventories, within the warehouse. Typical practices include the following: pallet moving, stacking the pallets, and pallet storage. Now, the right way to manage international logistics will depend on a number of factors, including the size of the operation and the speed requirements to meet customer demands for responsiveness. Now, big companies like Amazon and Alibaba will obviously do that because they can take advantages of economy of scale, investing in big and highly automated systems for storage and handling inventory, which is something that small companies may not really be in a position to do or afford to do. Extended transportation pipelines can have a significant effect on the time it takes for an organization to get its product or services to the market, resulting in an increased risk of product obsolescence and high level of inventory handling cost. Okay, two things: product obsolescence and inventory holding cost. Exactly what are they? Product obsolescence means products becoming obsolete as a result of the time they are in transit. This is seen in industries which experience rapid technological development or changes in fashion. Inventory holding cost refer to the cost of holding inventory in consolidation points throughout the supply chain. Delays and time spent in transit increased cost of holding inventory. Now, if you're managing lead time in international logistics, then you need to map out the entire process so that you know which are the areas that value is added and which are the areas that just time is wasted as far as the supply chain is concerned. So you need to have a map of the entire supply chain. You understand? From here all the way to the customer. What is happening in between here? The key logistic processes involved in time to market include order fulfillment, that is the ability of an organization to fulfill the specific customer requirements in terms of an actual delivered order with all order lines selected and delivered within the promised time. Number 2, new product development. That is the ability to launch a new product quickly, like in case of fashion industries where something new is always coming up. And number 3, reverse logistics, which has to do with product returns, okay? Returns are managed throughout the transportation network so that products may be recycled, refurbished, or reworked as part of inventory management. Reverse logistics is a key element in process design. Number 4, aftermarket services. These may include supply of components and or services parts that may be required by customers to support the continued use of the initial product that was sold. Again, support mechanisms and spare parts will need to be managed throughout the process. Number 5, information sharing. Okay, the complexity of supply chain requires excellent process to exchange data and information which is needed to manage inventory and ensure that product obsolescence is kept to a minimum and to improve efficiency of inventory throughout the transportation pipeline. Alright, so we are in United Kingdom and it is 2003. And Dyson, this company that manufactures vacuum cleaners, decides to move its production to Malaysia. What is the reason behind the decision? Production costs. That's the reason. To benefit from production costs that were 30% lower than in Britain. As you may have imagined, that sort of move is not going to be welcome or was not welcomed with open arms. In fact, unions and the government of UK were unanimous in the condemnation of the move. And the chief complaint was that profit was being put ahead of UK manufacturing and workforce loyalties. Well, currently companies do that for many reasons, such as taking tax advantage can be one of them. Apple does most of its manufacture in Asia and has office in Ireland, and it is a US company. Anyway, at the time, Dyson stated that it was restructuring its supply chain, expanding its research and development arm in the UK to take advantage of the high-tech knowledge and engineering skills in labor market, while benefiting from relatively low wages in Malaysia for production. And then if we quickly jump to 2019, Dyson decided to move to Singapore in pursuit of its identity as a global technology company. Obviously, there are some negative reactions to that as well. The point here is that global consolidation is not just limited to transportation and warehousing. It includes all inputs in the end-to-end supply chain requiring the sourcing of raw materials and components from where commodity prices are cheap, using labor in low-wage economies, and acquiring organizations or divisions of organization to gain access to proprietary knowledge and business intelligence. This is why organizations move their activities to industrial regions in developing countries and low, cost economies. The downside to this is environmental and safety standards tend to be ignored in developing countries, and the loss of logistics and distribution facilities to low-wage economies have led to unemployment and breakdown of communities in high-cost economies. That is pretty much how the economic world works. One economy goes up, the other one goes down. Anyway, consolidated transportation seeks to increase the cost of advantages of moving the products and service mix in bulk throughout the global supply chain. And that is the reason why you need to coordinate your logistics, okay? Because then you can take advantage of a number of things. Whether it's filling lorries, shipping containers or freight trains, the aim is to reduce the cost per mile per unit. Okay, think of it this way. Let's say you're building a small house, right? Now you can have the lorry go, get some bags of cement, come back, go again, get sand, come back, or you can figure it out this way. When it goes to get sand, Then in the process, it can also have cements put on top of the sand, the bags of cement put on top of the sand. And that way you only incur one cost, okay, when it goes and comes back. That's pretty much the idea that you're trying to understand in this case. Global consolidation provides the following benefits. Number one, lean end-to-end supply chain. So this is the kind of supply chain that focuses on continuous improvement by seeking to eliminate waste and also seeking to understand the value-adding points throughout the supply chain and see how it can improve on such. Number two, meet customers' expectation. That is, having an accurate picture of global inventory increases the efficiency of order management, which helps in turn to manage demand variation and gives customers visibility of supply chain availability at the point of order. Number three, process optimization. Okay, so global consolidation allows customers' orders to be measured and tracked from order to shipment, enabling multiple orders to be shipped together, optimizing picking, packing, and distribution. It also allows the identification of added value services in conjunction with technology and process improvement. Something else that helps when it comes to global consolidation is technology and big data. Logistic technology and communication between supply partners can minimize errors and increase transparency throughout the supply chain. Take Amazon, for instance, or even Alibaba. These are companies that use big data to drive cost efficiency from third-party freight companies. Of course, with third parties, there is always a challenge. Okay, so some of the challenges that are involved when you're dealing with third parties will include things like inefficiency caused by freight and shipping delays, underutilized transportation, diversity of supply base, vendor compliance and management of customs and import duties across borders. And so if you're thinking of global consolidation, then you need to remember these. Successful global consolidation depends on maximizing economic benefit by developing a logistics network that uses transport and warehouse capacity with minimal inventory while supporting superior performance of material flow throughout the supply chain. Large organizations generally benefit from proportionately lower logistics costs than small or medium-sized enterprises because they are able to take advantage of economies of scale. Think of it this way. So you have two companies. Company A wants to buy like 10 laptops, okay? And company B wants to buy 100 laptops. So of those two companies, which one do you think is going to be given, say, discount? Which one do you think the supplier is even willing to deliver the laptops themselves to? That is pretty much how the economies of scale work. Economies of scales refer to cost advantages that can be gained from maximizing capacity and increasing volumes based on achieving a low unit cost. So the traditional mindset here is that bigger is better, in the sense that average cost reduces as the output increase, which brings batching to mind. Batching refers to grouping similar logistic tasks and activities that require similar resources. Okay, as an example here, think of it this way. Let's say you want to import something and it doesn't really, it's not going to take an entire container, depending on the container size. I mean, there are various container sizes, right? So you can do that and you pay for a full container, except you're not using the entire thing. Or if your friend is also interested in importing something, then you two can share the container. So in this case, you only pay for one container rather than everybody paying for a full container and only using half. That in a nutshell, okay, that's roughly how batching works. When you take activities and do them at once so that you can save on the cost. Batching minimizes costly administrations and time wastage within logistic systems by grouping activities into batches. But as you are going through this, you need to understand that there is a negative side to both the economies of scale and batching, and that is referred to as the bullwhip effect. What is the bullwhip effect? The bullwhip effect is a supply chain phenomenon where demand changes at the end of the supply chain lead to inventory fluctuations along the chain. For instance, if you're selling, say, juice at retail level, and you normally sell 10 bottles of a given type of juice in a day, and suddenly you sell double that, which means you end up ordering double raw materials, or in this case, double fruits or whatever it is, or the juice itself. How will the wholesale react to this? Well, they're also going to double their stock to avoid running out of stock, and the manufacturer decides to manufacture more of that particular brand of juice. So think of it this way. That one small action at the end of the supply chain has led to a ripple effect all the way to the manufacturer's level in that supply chain. It becomes a problem since the exaggerated fluctuation in sales order make it difficult for logistics managers to manage the supply chain demand information. Now, the four major causes of the bullwhip effect are: number one, demand forecast update. In this case, well, it makes sense for, say, the procurement professionals to try and predict, the way things are going to be ordered in future. That can lead to problems. Perception of demand pattern and attempts to manage future demands when replenishing stock leads to excessive safety stock, especially when lead times are long. Number two, order batching. As inventory is depleted, the organization doesn't just order away. It waits for the accumulated demand to increase to the size needed for a batch order. More frequent ordering may also be prevented by ordering a full truckload. In this case, you're just talking about attempts to benefit from the economies of scale. The problem is that as you're doing that, the guy at the end of the supply chain, your supplier or your manufacturer, whatever it is, they don't know that that's what you're doing. They just think that suddenly demand has increased. And that, you see, creates a problem. Number three, price fluctuation. Okay, special promotions and discounts can result into customers purchasing product quantities that do not reflect immediate demand. And number four, rationing and shortage gain. Okay, let's assume there is a shortage of, say, sugar or something, right? And so there is a policy. You go to a market, you only buy one per something. Now, if that happens, what do you think the results are going to be? This can lead to customers gaming the rationing system by exaggerating their actual requirements to get a proportion of the order line that meets their actual demand. Now, a summative way of dealing with the bullwhip effect will involve foster supply chain communication and collaboration, use of better forecasting and visibility tool, and explore a demand-driven approach to supply chain management. Global trade requires exchange with supply partners and customers who operate in different countries and who use different currencies. Now, the effect of price and currency fluctuation must be taken into account when developing a global logistics strategy. How do you do that? Number one, currency choice, okay? Setting the transaction pricing in the currency of the buyer transfers the foreign exchange risk to the customer. Number two, hedging, okay? That is working with financial institutions to agree to provide fixed amount of currency at an agreed price when the payment commitment matures. This allows the organization to pay a non-fixed price for a currency. Currency options, buy contracts that give the organization the right, should they wish to buy or sell currency at an agreed price within a specific time period, reducing the risk of unfavorable fluctuations. And then we have spot currency purchases, okay? That is buying currency as capital resource to be held by organization until it is needed, so that the currency exchange rate is known at the time of the contract negotiation. And finally, currency adjustment clauses. Okay, the procurement profession can negotiate currency clauses that allow for payment to be subject to exchange rate parameters to take into account fluctuations in the exchange rate between the time of the contract and the date that product is delivered. Organizations must consider the availability of international transport between operational facilities, including road, maritime, air, and rail. The basic infrastructure of the industry in terms of equipment, security, safety, and documentation also need to be determined, to be analyzed, so that you can figure out which transportation mode is suitable for the logistics practices that we are going for. Transportation choice comes down to operational factors, transport mode characteristics, consignment factors, costs, and service requirements. determine the right location for an effective execution of the logistic strategy, an organization must identify, analyze, evaluate, and select facilities and location for a variety of options. Now, an organization choice on logistic and freight modes, just comes down to the following 4 factors. Number 1, supply point, that is access to raw material sourcing or components, will affect locations and freight mode, especially materials which are essential to the production process. And the second one is production plants. That is, the location of production plants may be driven by supply points for essential materials in the production process. For instance, access to water as well as access to transportation where delays in shipment are detrimental to product quality. Number 3, warehouses and storage facilities. Work in progress and finished goods warehouse may be located near production plant or located nearer to market based on requirement of finished products, its component parts, and tolerance for distance travel between factory and warehouse. And finally, distribution depots. Now, inventory holding and handling policies will determine the location of distribution centers and will be determined by freight modes, distance to local markets, and geographical consideration. Look, the whole point of this was for you to understand the logistical challenges that globalization presents. And we looked at the logistical challenges that globalization presents in three parts, from 3 perspectives. That is consequences of inventory handling and transport, global consolidation, and location analysis. So if there is any question at any point, do make sure that you let me know. I'm Moses, and I'll see you in the next video.